Okay, we've just had a new moon in Capricorn that we didn't talk about at all in this house. And that's maybe because what's happening this week may well be bigger than anything. Anything else happening this year, this decade, this lifetime to me. It's what we've been talking about for a hot minute. Pluto moving into Aquarius. Now, is this happening for the first time in our lifetimes? No, because around this time last year, we had the same good fortune of Pluto moving into Aquarius, and we got a short window, line of sight into what the 20 years of Pluto in Aquarius will look like. Last year it was about, I think, 3 months. This year we're going to get about 8 months. And then we're going to get a reprieve of 3-ish months to gather our selves together for the last time before Pluto stations in Aquarius for 20 years. Whew. Whew. Why is any of this significant? Why does it even matter? And why are we talking about it? Mina Makhosi Nomabutho Emsamo. I am Honey Magwagwa to my parents, and I am Honey Tell a Story on all social media platforms. And this is Sangoma Society, where we demystify the astral and the ancestral. Essentially, why we even talk about any of the astral movements is in the capacity of ubunyanga bethu. African astrology is a collective perspective. In African astrology, what we look at is how astral movements affect us as members of the collective. The philosophy behind African ways of being is that we are because the next person is. So how things affect how we relate to each other becomes incredibly important, because community is at the heart of African philosophy. And I think this particular movement of Pluto is going to be so crucial in terms of what it is that brings African philosophy even more into the conversation than it has been in these last 30 years. We've seen it slowly becoming more and more topical, but I think we might see the influence being respected a great deal more when we see Pluto in Aquarius. And I'll tell you why. We do these readings for the person who knows themselves to be affected by the movements of the astral bodies. And if you're that person, then you probably want to know why. We've seen over the course of Pluto's last 30 years, Pluto has moved through the most mature of each of the different elements. In 1995, Pluto entered Sagittarius, and we saw during that time the dot-com bubble, and also led into the great crash of the late noughts. As Pluto has moved through Capricorn, we've seen, for no better term, late stage capitalism. And now when we're going to see Pluto move through Aquarius, the most mature earth sign, idealism, ideology, revolution. There's no other way to put it. I mean, there are just too many planets positioned, poised for revolution, notably Uranus and Taurus at this moment, that we kind of have to anticipate it. And that since we have been seeing capitalism on its knees for a good 30 years as things are, where else do we have to go from here? I think by the time 2044 comes and Pluto moves into Pisces, we're going to have, as a result of Pluto in Aquarius, a completely new understanding of what it means to feel or dream even. Why am I referring to these massive movements and not just focusing on Pluto in Aquarius? Well, the past and the future gives us context of where we are. That's why it's natural in our minds to ruminate on the past and worry about the future, because it informs what we do in the present, how we show up now. And what we're going to see in the coming days as Pluto moves into Aquarius on the 20th of January 2024 is also 11 hours before Pluto leaves Capricorn and goes into Aquarius. We're going to see Pluto Cazimi in Capricorn, which is when a planet is in the heart of the sun, in the sign that it occupies. So that day, already a day in which the sun is in Capricorn, already a day in which the moon is moving through with the intention of the new moon in Capricorn, moving through the zodiac, and another 3 planets also in Capricorn, and then a Cazimi in Capricorn. It's going to be quite an intense day. And for me, I think an incredible moment in which to give ourselves an opportunity for letting go, releasing completely the patterns of the past, and setting our intentions. Not just for a singular lunation, but for the potential future that we are part of creating at this moment in time. If you haven't seen the seeds of revolution, let me paint a picture for you. On the day of the new moon in Capricorn, we had one of the most historic moments in global communal legacy. South Africa at the Peace Palace at The Hague, bringing forward charges for the court to consider that it is possible that Israel is in the process of a genocide, and bringing an end to that, requesting for the court to bring an end to that. Now, these genocide conventions almost only exist because of what happened to the majority of Israel's current population, the Jews, the Jewish genocide of the Second World War. So it's a full circle moment. It's revolution. It brings into question if the court does in fact stand for what it says it stands for. More than it does bring into question what Israel is or isn't doing. It brings into question where the moral compass or the needle of humanity's moral compass is pointed. Who holds that compass? When we have the majority of the global South speaking in one voice, and some parties of the global North, almost insisting on speaking on the wrong side of this conversation. Pluto brings transformation that happens from the inside out. So some things that have been put in place just for show are now being forced into a confrontation of their raison d'être. Are you what you say you are? I feel like when we look at the last 30 years and we look at Pluto's transit in Sagittarius between 1995 and 2008, and that dot-com bubble and that property bubble, it is as though Pluto stretches an ideal to its limits and forces out of it its integrity by bringing about its death and rebirth as something better. For instance, look at what happened after the dot-com bubble burst. We really got the internet. We saw what true innovation could be in that medium. That's Pluto in Sagittarius, innovation, new ideas, sparking something new, the fire element. Now, Pluto in Capricorn, the earth element, has really brought capitalism to its knees. And it's been frantic. It's almost laughable. The denial of capitalism that we have seen in the trends of the last 12 months while Pluto has been making its movements, the quiet luxury movement, and now the end of quiet luxury, logomania trying to make a return. All these different aesthetics that show us just how much the movements of the planets do in fact affect how we show up collectively in the ways that we want to be seen by one another. Community. maturity of humanity is what I see as Pluto has moved through Sagittarius, Capricorn, and now into Aquarius. So the most mature of the fire signs, the most mature of the earth signs, and now going into the most mature of the air signs. Ideology. Challenging our ideology. It just just so happens that the way in which Pluto does this is through death, through ending certain things. So I think the Kazemi that we're going to see 12 hours before Pluto leaves Capricorn and goes into Aquarius on the 20th is ultimately an opportunity for reflection, to feel what we're feeling. If there's one action, I mean, we've already said that this is the year to have a journal. If you don't have one, my goodness, there's one thing you want to have. It's a journal this year. You want to journal just what you're feeling. It's going to give you a good idea of what it is that you want to let go, what it is that you can't carry forward with you. Whatever feels frustrating, hot on your spirit, pressing on that day is probably a good marker, an indicator of what you cannot move forward with. And then from that clarity, set your intentions. Yes, setting your intentions halfway through the lunar cycle, yeah, totally, definitely. I'm saying it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. This is, it just is that key for me. I can't express to you how much you're going to feel these movements throughout the day on Saturday. If you don't have plans, don't make plans. I wouldn't make plans. Pluto is a slow moving planet, so its movements can be felt a lot deeper than the movements of faster moving planets, perhaps. And like, when I say deeper, I mean deeper in our subconscious. So it can bring things up from a place that you hadn't been checking for. So it's that you have an opportunity to give yourself a moment for reflection, a moment for introspection, a moment to sit with yourself and consider. Make your considerations and set your intentions. Do it. This year is not a year that gives us the opportunity to rest into it in the same way that 2023 did. This year has urgency. It wants us to act. It wants us to take action now, not... No. Don't pause. Don't take your foot off the gas. It wants you to know where it is that you're standing and to take action accordingly. Pluto moves in a manner that affects how humanity moves. It's not just an individual experience. It's a collective experience, what Pluto impacts ultimately. We're entering an age, and think about it. How many times in your life have you experienced a dress rehearsal for what was coming? Pluto's given that to us twice over. This is the second time. if there was ever a time to get your house in order, the things that you learned, the realizations that you gathered in the second half of 2023, those lessons that you felt like you saw from a different perspective what you had struggled with in the first half of the year. Take the lessons and apply them now. Not tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow, not in the coming months. Start now. This is what Pluto is asking from you at this moment in time. This is what the 5 planets currently in Capricorn are asking from you right now. Get your house in order. Act like you know something, because you do. Because this is not new. This is what you've been preparing for. So act like it. You're absolutely ready for this. You have been ready for this, and this moment is bringing change. For our fixed signs, yeah, we're going to feel it. We're going to feel it. I don't know anybody whose chart is ruled by Pluto. I don't know how you're surviving right now. Good luck. God bless us. We're in this together. I suffer alongside you. But for our fixed placements, our Scorpios, our Aquariuses, our Leos, listen, we've got this, okay? We can do this. We can change. We can welcome change. It's coming. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we saw the French and American Revolution. We also saw the birth of Shaka Zulu, saw the birth of empire in Africa, and diplomacy in Africa, and revolution in Europe and the Americas. I really wish I had looked to what happened in Asia at that time, but I haven't. And nothing comes to mind. My bad. I will be looking into that in the coming weeks. But what that tells you is that collectively how we're going to be looking at the systems that govern us, and therefore frame our realities, is going to shift, and shift drastically. And if the events of the new moon are anything to go by, wow, there's plenty on the way. Plenty more where that came from. And if we look at the astrology for the year as a whole, we know it may not be easy for us to let go, but we're going to have to. And when Pluto retrogrades, we'll breathe a little bit easier. Just as we did last year. And again, even in the astrology of the year, this fits once again. And when Pluto finally makes that step into Aquarius for the last time, where it's going to stay and not retrograde out again until 2044, when that happens this November, you're going to thank yourself for whatever you chose to do now. Act like you're ready. You've had the realizations you needed to have. You know what this is about. Put what you learned into play. Take action. And when I say take action, I mean do what it is that you need to do in the most practical sense. Okay? This has been our reading for Pluto moving into Aquarius. We're going to be working our way into the future with a pivoting into purpose. And you're welcome to join us. Pivoting into Purpose is still open for enrollment until the end of January 2024. Mina Makhosi Nomabutho and this is Sangoma Society, where we demystify the astral and the ancestral. We hope that this offering has watered your garden. Mabukai.